What did you YouTube? MGM Collective. Back again, another day, another part. Today is going to be part 4 of our Gen 6 analysis, and we're just going to get right into it. The first Pokemon, Alakazam. Now, Alakazam's pros are going to be special attack, its speed, and Gen 5 it got a nice new ability, amazing ability actually, Magic Guard, which prevents it from taking any indirect damage. So no toxic spikes, no regular spikes, no stealth rock, no burn, none of that stuff. And that's a really great ability for Alakazam because it was frail. And one of the reasons why it wasn't seeing much play in Gen 4 and OU is because of its susceptibility to being pursued by the likes of T-Tar, Weavile, what's another one? Well, not really Weavile necessarily, but Scizor, mainly T-Tar and Scizor. And it's just overall frailty, not being able to take a hit. That really hurt it. But in 5th gen, it got the ability to run Magic Guard with Focus Sash, where it could switch in on anything, no matter what they had spikes. Toxic Spikes, Stealth Rock didn't matter. You're gonna have your Focus Sash intact. So you're always guaranteed to get one hit off of something. And if you force them to switch out into like their Scizor, well, now they're forced to bullet punch you, whereas they could have been able to pursuit trap you and kill you straight away. But since they know that you're going to have a Focus Sash, you're going to live any one hit, so you're going to get a big hit off on them, whether it's a Focus Blast or a Hidden Power Fire. So they're going to have to basically have to sacrifice their Scizor to get rid of Alakazam if they want to switch into it. So that really helped Alakazam out. So 5th gen was really kind to Alakazam. It also gave it access to the new move Psyshock, which allowed it to prevent Pokemon like Blissey from walling it to hell, because it could hit Blissey for its pathetic physical defense and do some massive damage because of that massive 135 special attack. So the old sets for Alakazam, Focus Sash 4 attack, or the Life Orb 4 attack. As I just said, for previous reasons, the Focus Sash 4 attack was probably the most effective Alakazam set. Now you did lose out on just the sheer raw power that the Life Orb brought you. But you didn't really need it in most cases because Alakazam is just powerful enough to take stuff out. Another boost that Alakazam got, it's going to get next generation, is that a Pokemon like Jirachi, who normally walled that thing to hell, can no longer wall it because those Shadow Balls are going to be hitting Jirachi for super effective damage now. So, especially defensive Jirachi, which could just come in and just take any move from Alakazam. I mean, you're still not going to be able to beat Jirachi one-on-one, but at least you have a move to hit it with for super effective damage. If it gets into a range where a Shadow Ball will kill. If you're running the Life Orb variant, Shadow Ball does a ton of damage. If you're running the Focus Sash variant, you can still take him out from about 45% health. So that's another thing that Alakazam is going to get next generation. Now, as far as changes, I really can't see Alakazam changing much. It already has great coverage moves. It's got Focus Blast, Psychic, Shadow Ball, Hidden Power Fire, or Hidden Power Ice. Probably the best 4 moves to run on Alakazam. It's got Magic Guard. It's got Psyshock to hit especially defensive walls. I mean, I don't really see how much you can. I don't really see you improving this Pokemon anymore unless you give it a Mega Evolution, which that would be insane. But I don't know. I mean, we'll just have to see. We'll have to see what new moves Gen 6 will have. We'll have to see. I doubt they'll give these Pokemon even more abilities to use. I wouldn't. I just don't think that's going to happen. Adding another ability to every single Pokemon. So I don't think that's going to happen. But maybe it's more than likely going to be moves or Mega Evolutions. That's really all that can change for Alakazam. So we'll have to wait and see. So the next Pokemon is Volcarona. Volcarona's pros are special attack and the ability to Quiver Dance, one of the few Pokemon that can do it. But its major con is its Stealth Rock weakness. But Volcarona is probably the first Pokemon that was 4 times weak to Stealth Rocks, and it's still overused because it just didn't matter. If I get in my Volcarona safely and I get up 1 Quiver Dance and your team isn't prepared for it, you lost. It's just that simple. Didn't matter whether you had rocks or not. I mean, basically, Volcarona's old sets all revolved around Quiver Dancing. There was a bulky Quiver Dance set with leftovers. There was the Resto Chesto Quiver Dance, which is basically just Quiver Dance as much as possible, then rest when you think you're going to kill me, and then sweep you. And then there was a Life Orb, just straight up 1 Quiver Dance, and just sweep you with pure power. And then there was the Rain Sweeper with Hidden Power Water and Hurricane, which was kind of a weird type of thing that was going around at one point. But Volcarona, as far as what you can do with it, you really can't do too much with it, but you really don't need to do too much with it. It's in that really nice position. It gets a bunch of moves that help it deal with some of its counters. I think Volcarona's one of its another weaknesses that I probably should have put on here is like it has super 4 move syndrome. It's like well, actually, it's more like 3 move syndrome if you factor in Quiver Dance, because like if you go for your 2 stabs, Fire Blast or Fiery Dance, and then Bug Buzz. You've got your last move is going to be, well, if you want Hidden Power Ice, you can hit the dragons, which you can't really hit. So like Pokemon like Dragonite and Salamence will just wall you because they double resist one stab, or no, they resist both your stabs. But then again, if you run that set, Heatran walls you to hell, or you could go, let's say, or Heatran and Jellicent wall you to hell. Well, then you can say, okay, well, I'm going to run Giga Drain for Jellicent, but then Heatran still walls you. If you run Hidden Power Rock, that gives you the most, I guess, the most effective range of things to hit, because that hits Pokemon like Gyarados, it hits Pokemon like Dragonite and Salamence. It can hit Jellicent, but it's still not going to do anything, but at least it can hit it. It can hit Heatran, and honestly, if Heatran doesn't have Roar, it really is not going to be able to do much to you after a couple of Quiver Dances, especially if you're running the Chesto Berry set, because sometimes Heatrans carry Toxic. I know I carry Toxic on my Heatran sometimes. So unless they don't have Roar or Toxic, and then Heatran can't really do anything to you. But it's really not likely that they won't have one of those 2 moves. So it definitely suffers from some 3 move syndrome. If you want to run Hidden Power Ground to get rid of Heatran, you still can't deal with Jellicent. Although Jellicent is not as popular as Heatran, so you just got to play the percentages. But even still, that's why you have 5 other Pokemon on your team. But Volcarona was definitely a major threat, despite its huge weakness to Stealth Rocks. And that's why I don't understand why people are ruling out Talonflame to just banishing it to NU right off the bat, even though it's Fire Flying. I mean, it may be in a situation with Volcarona where, hey, if it gets the right moves, it doesn't matter. If it's a big enough threat, it's not going to matter. And I think Volcarona proves that last gen, and I think you're going to see more of the same for Volcarona this gen. I don't think there's going to be much that's going to change about it. I mean, the only thing really that can change is if it gets some new coverage move that'll make it just even better. That's really all that Volcarona is going to. That's all that can change Volcarona, just new moves. Honestly, I don't see people doing anything other than Quiver Dancing with it. Next Pokemon on the list is Skarmory, and Skarmory's pros are its defense, its resistance to Fairy. It checks Mega Mawile. The reason why I don't say it counters Mega Mawile is because, one, Mega Mawile can learn Thunder Punch, so Adamant Huge Power Thunder Punch is going to hurt Skarmory. Secondly, even if it's not running Thunder Punch, I mean, I'm predicting the standard Mawile set to be Swords Dance, Adamant, Max HP, Max Attack, Swords Dance, Sucker Punch, Brick Break, and Iron Head. I feel like that's probably going to be the most popular Mega Mawile set, at least to start off with. And if you switch in your Skarmory onto a Mega Mawile that has Swords Dance, Brick Break does like 45 to 48%, and that's a lot of damage. And all Skarmory can really do is just Whirlwind it out. I mean, what else can it do to a Mega Mawile? It can't like Toxic it, even if it wanted to. And it can't. I mean, Brave Bird's not going to do shit. So all you can do is Whirlwind it out. So you're going to have to eat that 45% minimum, and then be Whirlwinded out. And depending on what else they have on their team, I mean, if you Whirlwind them out into a Salamence, I mean, that has Fire Blast, just Skarmory's done for. So it really just checks Mega Mawile. It really does not counter Mega Mawile. So that's why I have check instead of counter. And then it got access to ability. Sturdy is a really nice ability. It comes in handy, especially on the Custap League set. Sturdy really helped it out. And without Stealth Rock, Skarmory is guaranteed to live any one hit, no matter what it is. So Sturdy was a really nice. It got buffed up in 5th gen. It was a really nice ability for Skarmory. Now its cons are obviously its loss of resistances to Dark and Ghost, and then its move pool isn't really the greatest. So there's not really much you can do with Skarmory outside of play defensive. Honestly, it doesn't really have the. It also doesn't really have the stats to help it do anything other than be defensive. So that's Skarmory's major con. The old set's defensive, especially defensive. Pretty much all you can run, and towards the end of 5th gen, though, people started running that Custap lead, which basically guaranteed you a Stealth Rock and a Spike. You also had Taunt to cripple some of the slower Pokemon that want to set up for Stealth Rocks. And then I don't even know what the last move was. I guess maybe Brave Bird or Drill Peck or maybe Roar. I mean, whatever, it doesn't really matter, but the Custap League is definitely very popular, and again, Skarmory is one of those Pokemon that's, unless it gets some new moves, but I really don't see how, I mean, what new moves it could possibly get, because again, it doesn't really have the stats to do anything other than be defensive, so unless it gets some new defensive moves, maybe like a Physical Steel Giga Drain, that would be awesome, a Physical Steel Giga Drain. Sorry about that, that's my alarm. But yeah, Physical Steel Giga Drain, how amazing would that be? But I mean, something outside of something like that, I mean, Skarmory's not really going to be changing much, and you're going to see more of the same in 6th Gen. But Skarmory's usage is definitely going to go up in 6th Gen because of its ability to check Mega Mawile. And also, if Blissey becomes a Fairy type, you're going to see Skarmbliss. You're going to see those two together all the time, and both of their usages are going to go way up. So just be prepared to see more Skarmorys in 6th Gen. The next Pokemon we're going to talk about is Salamence. Salamence just an amazing Pokemon in general. It's just stats in general are amazing. I don't think it has really any one weak area as far as stats are concerned. I mean, you could argue that its defense and special defense, being both 80 base, are obviously clearly its weakest points as in its lowest stats, but it's not really a weak point because it has 90 base HP. So couple that with 80 base defenses plus Intimidate, and you've got a bulky Pokemon in your hand. So Salamence is just amazing. Has amazing stat distribution. It has 2 amazing abilities, Intimidate and Moxie, and overall it's just extremely versatile. It can do pretty much whatever you want it to do. It has like it can wish. It has wish. It can wish pass to your team. You can run defensive with Roost. You can run Banded, Mix, Scarf, Specs. I mean, anything you want Salamence to do, it can do, and it can do it pretty well. Salamence is an amazing Pokemon. But its cons are going to be really its Stealth Rock weakness. I mean, that's the only really con to Salamence, honestly. Now, the old sets in 5th Gen were the Moxie Scarf, which is by far the most popular set. You just outrage everything, and when you get kills, you get stronger. I mean, that's pretty much it. Dragon Dance set, and then the Mixed Life Orb set. And once again, as I've said before, for each dragon, you're going to see that their moveset is going to change dramatically with the addition of Iron Tail is going to be a staple on every dragon that can learn it. Now, from 6th Gen movesets for Salamence, I've got a Mixed Choice set that I've combined them together. So the nature is going to be Naive, Adamant, Jolly, Naughty. If you want to run Fire Blast, you may want to run Naughty as well. The EV's max attack, max speed. Now some items are Life Orb, Plumberry, Yachi Berry, Fairy Berry, and I'll explain that shortly. Choice Band is a choice card for the choice sets. Now the moves are going to be Draco Meteor / Outrage for your Dragon move. Draco Meteor obviously if you're running Mixed, and Outrage if you're running the Choice or Bandits, the Choice sets. Iron Tail obviously is going to be the new staple move, as I said, for Dragons. Fire Blast and Earthquake is good coverage for Dragons. Now, let me explain to you guys something I just thought about for Outrage. And it may not be such a bad thing to still have Outrage on your moveset for Dragons, and here's why. The Outrage mechanics changed in 5th Gen. So if you remember how Outrage used to work in 4th Gen, if you outraged, you were just stuck on Outrage no matter what happened. Even if they went for a move like Protect, you still had to outrage the next turn. In 5th Gen, they changed that though. So if I was going for my first Outrage and my opponent protected, I could switch up my moves on my next attack. Whereas that wasn't the case in 6th Gen or 4th Gen. Now, if I was going for my second Outrage and then they protected, it depended on whether or not I had another Outrage, what would happen. Because if that was my last Outrage, as in I had 2 Outrages, then I would get confused. But if I had a third Outrage, then it would just reset, and then I would be able to switch up my moves on my next attack, which was really a nice addition, which really helped out Outrage, because if you go for Outrage and they protect, and you got a 33-turn Outrage, you would immediately stop. Now, I'm wondering if it's going to work the same for a Fairy. For example, if I go for my first Outrage, and they switch in a Fairy, they're obviously not going to take any damage. But then, if I'm allowed to switch up my moves, then I could just hit them up with an Iron Tail on my next turn, and I didn't really lose anything. So I didn't really even have to predict. Another thing is, well, you know, if I'm on my second Outrage, but I have a third one coming up, then they switch into a Fairy. If I'm able to switch up my moves once again, I can just hit them up with an Iron Tail. Now, if you couple that with the Fairy Berry, well, by Fairy Berry I mean like the Fairy version of the Yachi Berry, or the Fairy version of the what is the berry? Aka Berry or the Shucka Berry. That's what I mean by the Fairy Berry. So you couple that with the Fairy Berry, so if they switch in a Fairy on your Outrage, that's fine. I'm just going to hit you up with an Iron Tail. You go for a Fairy move, it's going to be cut in half. Then I'm going to 2-hit KO you. I'm going to proceed to 2-hit KO you with Iron Tail. And that's really going to be good for dragons. So if that's the case, then fairies might not be those great dragon counters that we would expect them to be. Because if I can outrage, but still I'm allowed to switch up my moves next turn, I'm going to hit you up with an Iron Tail, and I'm going to 2-hit KO you easily, especially with a Pokemon like Salamence that has such high attack. So it's just going to be interesting to see how the outrage mechanics work. But if they work anything similar to how they did in 5th Gen, you may not have to, change your outrage for, a Dragon Claw, a move like Dragon Claw or Dragon Rush. But then again, if they have Fairy and Steel combined together, that's still something where you don't want to be locked into outrage, because they can switch in a Fairy to see what you're going to do, then switch in their Steel type, and it's just maybe it's still maybe beneficial to have something that have a Dragon type move that doesn't necessarily lock into it. But that being said, we'll move on to the next set, which is going to be the Dragon Dance set. Standard Dragon Dance set. Naughty, Naive Nature, Max Attack, Max Speed, Items, Life Orb, Lumberry, Yache Berry, or the Fairy Berry. And then the moves are going to be Outrage, Dragon Claw, / Dragon Rush. I've already explained that portion of the move. Iron Tail is obvious, Earthquake or Fire Blast, and then Dragon Dance. Now, the thing that fairies do is they obviously force dragons to run that Iron Tail to be able to deal with them. Now you have to choose between Earthquake or Fire Blast as your last move if you want to run the Dragon Dance set. And obviously Fire Blast hits Skarmory and Ferrothorn, whereas Earthquake is mainly for Mega Mawile and Heatran. And now you're going to have to pick and choose which coverage moves you want, which means that you won't be able to do much against the other Pokemon. So for example, if I've got a Mega Mawile and a Heatran on my team, then I'm pretty much able to check the Dragon Dance Salamence, because I can just switch in my Heatran, see what type of coverage move he has. If he's packing Earthquake, not Mega Mawile and Heatran, I'm sorry, any other fairy other than Mega Mawile and Heatran. So let's say like Gardevoir and Heatran together, like a defensive Gardevoir and especially defensive Heatran. I can just switch in my Heatran, then switch into my Gardevoir, see what move you have to hit me. If you don't have anything to hit me, I'm just going to go right back into my Heatran, and then I'm just going to proceed to roll you away, Hidden Power, Ice You, whatever I have. So before where Salamence could run both Earthquake and Fire Blast, and it didn't have to worry about Ferrothorn, Skarmory, or Heatran unless it was on a balloon. Now this gen, with the addition to fairies, certain Pokemon that normally wouldn't be able to stop Salamence can now stop Salamence coupled with a fairy type. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But these are probably going to be the main sets with Salamence. Again, I don't think the choice sets are going to be as viable this go around, because again, fairies can switch in and take nothing, which gives them basically your opponent a free turn to do whatever he or she wants, while you have to switch. Forcing them, allowing them to predict you and give a significant advantage in the game. So I just don't think choice dragons are going to be as popular, especially with a dragon type like Salamence that has a disadvantage where it doesn't have any moves, any scouting moves, or any moves that it can cripple its potential switch-ins with, like Latios has with Trick, or Pokemon like Hydreigon or Flygon have with U-Turn. So I definitely think you're not going to see many choice Salamences or choice Dragonites, or even choice Haxoruses as often as you would as you did last gen, because of that fact. And the last Pokemon we're going to be talking about is Ninetales. Ninetales is pros. It became OU because of its ability, Drought. It also has really good special defense and some pretty good speed. Now its counter or its move pool isn't really the greatest. It has a Stealth Rock weakness, and then its special attack is pretty low for a fully evolved fire Pokemon. It may even be the lowest. Don't quote me on that though, but it's pretty low though. I think it's like base 81, which is just it's kind of pathetic. Like I ran a modest specs Ninetales on one of my Sun teams, and I was just disappointed at the amount of damage that the damage output that it had. I was really disappointed in the damage that I was getting on stuff that should have been utterly destroyed by choice specs Sun boosted overheat. Now, the old sets were especially defensive, probably, in my opinion, the best set. There was also a Sub-Will-O-Wisp set and the Nasty Plot set, using its Ninetales as a pretty decent speed to run Nasty Plot. As far as things changing, again, Ninetales really isn't probably going to change too much, again, because its move pool is so limited. Again, unless it gets some new moves in Generation 6, it's going to be doing more of the same that it did in Generation 5. But you may see Ninetales' usage go up. Because Mega Charizard Y has the ability Drought as well, so you may see people running dual Sun, dual Weather on their Sun teams to give the Sun a little extra advantage over, say, Rain teams or Sand teams. So you may see Ninetales and Charizard Y just become a staple on the Sun team. You just throw those on and then put 4 other guys around them, and there's your Sun team. So you may see Ninetales' usage go up, coupled with Mega Charizard Y. Or on the flip side, you may see it go down because people may just decide that Charizard Y is a better permanent weather setupper. So Charizard Y will go up and usage of Ninetales will go down. But I doubt that's going to happen because Charizard's still 4 times weak to Stealth Rocks. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. So you may see Ninetales' usage go up if people decide to use both of them. If people decide, well, Mega Charizard Y is just not worth it, then Ninetales will probably stay at its current usage around the same area that is being used now. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think about these videos. Give me your opinions on your thoughts about 6th Gen. I'd love to hear them. And with that, I'm out of here. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Deuces.